If the Pitt Panthers are involved and we're talking about it, must mean Marco's in the room, and he is. He's our Pittsburgh guy, and he's put together this great record when it comes to Pittsburgh area sports. The Panthers traveling to South Bend this week to take on Notre Dame, and the Irish lay in 16.5 at the total of about 45.5. And we're going to get to the thick of things in just a moment. But first, I want to congratulate Marco on his Game of the Year win last week. He had the North Carolina Tar Heels -7 over the NC State Wolfpack. And I'm going to say this much, Marco. He's now retired, but I used to work with a guy by the name of Glenn McGrew, one of my best friends since I've been in this business. And when I used to lose a game in the closing seconds, he would say, well, Scott, you obviously didn't handicap the game for the full 60 minutes. You only handicapped it for 59 minutes and 30 seconds. My friend, congratulations on handicapping that game till the final, oops, 2-point conversion.
You know, it was just one of those things. And, the guys that didn't realize that they were going to bobble the snap at the end, you got to factor that in. But I don't know. You got the earpiece. Can you ask Cade, did he do something to my chair? Because my chair doesn't quite feel right.
Cade, by the way, is our director-producer, and I'm asking if he did something. Yeah, Marco wants to know if he did something. I have no idea what he's doing.
Wait a minute. I had a horseshoe up my ass this weekend. It's a gold one, too.
You hand it to Bryan?
That better be the last thing you pull out of your pants.
That's later.
Okay, so Richard Gere, are you a power rating guy or?
Sometimes you got to be lucky. Sometimes you got to be lucky, and
you got out to a big lead. By the way, you were out to a 25-7 lead,
14-0 or 15-0 first 4 minutes, 25-7, and they were still in the first quarter, and then somehow we didn't score until the fourth quarter, and we scored 18 points in the fourth quarter.
You got the win, and every backer of yours in North Carolina is happy. So congratulations. Let's go to Pitt, Notre Dame, with no more reaches under the chair.
I'm not touching this, by the
way. Boy. So anyway, Pitt, Notre Dame. You're the Pittsburgh guy. You put together this great. Before we go to the analysis of this, are you a power rating guy at all? Do you?
No. I look at situations. I look at, you're the big matchup guy. I like to look at teams where they've played the last week, what they've got coming up, look at past history, and then, I read the line incorporated with that. In this Pitt game this week, last week, Notre Dame, everybody was bad-mouthing Notre Dame. They were an undefeated team, and everybody was ripping them apart because of the schedule they played. They barely got by BYU the week before, and I'm like, guys, you can't possibly think that Notre Dame was going to be totally up for playing BYU when they got Oklahoma on deck. I mean, those are the type of things that I look at. Last week, Notre Dame going to Oklahoma, that was what I like to refer to as their statement game. Every season, a team that's in the, that gets off to an early start, people always will look and say, well, you played this team, you played that team. But there's that one game where I like to say they got legitimized. That was their legitimizer game last week. Now everybody that was bad-mouthing Notre Dame, they're on the bandwagon. And what do you got here? You got a line that's floating around 16.5. I even seen it as high as 17 one time this week, but it's back down to 16.5. That's crazy. These teams play one another every year.
This is the fifth straight season.
The fifth straight season, 9 times since 2001, I believe, they've played. And there's only one time has there been double digits in this series. And Notre Dame was -11. I think it was in 2004 or 2005. And Pitt actually went into Notre Dame and won the game outright. Right. They always play tight games. The last 4 games in a series have been decided by 6 points or less. So you've got the history and the knowledge of these two teams, playing one another. This is just a crazy, insane line.
And by the way, while I'm talking to Bryan, Cade who's our director-producer, just whispered in my ear that he actually got taller when he removed the horseshoe. I don't know what's going on there, but anyway.
I'm just worried about somebody whispering in his ear.
There you go. But
it was in his ear.
Yeah, it was his ear
now. Over there. Since you're not the power rating guy, I'm going to ask you about power ratings. Now, the last 4 years, these two teams, as we just said, have hooked up each year. We haven't seen a line bigger than 6.5. Notre Dame was a 6.5-point favorite in one game, 6-point favorite in another. Pitt was a 5-point favorite in 2009. Dame was the favorite in 2008, laying 4. So we've seen a 4 to 6.5-point line range. The teams, by the way, have split those 4 games outright, 2-2, and then Pitt's 2-0-2 against the spread. But here's the problem, Bryan. I know you're a power rating guy. That's why I want to get your power rating on this one. I was doing the show on Sunday night, the radio show with VR, and I said, here's one of those situations where My power rating from before this past weekend, before Notre Dame beat Oklahoma, says that Notre Dame should be a 17-point favorite over Pittsburgh at South Bend. And so the thing that bothered me about this is when I saw Notre Dame beat Oklahoma, I ran back to see what I made Notre Dame over Pitt because I thought I was going to get value with the underdog. But this is one of those situations for me, and I'm going to ask if it's the same for you, to where I might have to go against my power rating in this one, which says the line's right because of the situation that Notre Dame is in this game. I'm looking to play the underdog or nothing in this one.
Yeah, my line was similar to yours. I think it was in the 16-17 range. And, it's interesting because you talked about the past history. You didn't even mention the way the game ended last year. I mean, Pitt had that game wrapped up, and Notre Dame comes down and scores late and wins the game. So this is a revenge situation for Pitt. It's funny. We had the Tuesday meeting, and Fezzik asked Marco, he says, "You got any season over-under wins?" And he goes, "Yeah, I like Pitt over." Well, if you remember, the first couple of weeks of the season, Pitt looked like one of the worst teams in college football.
Lost to Youngstown and Cincy, and in bad fashion.
Yeah, but they've covered five.
Keep bringing up that Cincinnati game.
I was with you.
They've covered 5 out of the last 6. Defensively, they've been great.
Right.
They've held 5 of those 6 opponents to 17 points or less. This is a low total game. It's like 45.5, 46. I kind of like the under here. But how often do you find a game with this total and also a double-digit dog in this situation?
Listen, I want your free pick on this, Marco. And if you have to insert the golden horseshoe before you give out the pick, there's a bathroom back there. But if not, let's get to that free pick.
All right, this is my free pick this week. I like Pitt here. This is just a horrible spot for Notre Dame. They proved everybody wrong last week. I was one of the people that were on Notre Dame last week. I thought it was an insane line for them to be getting as many points as they were getting in Oklahoma. Now this week, I got to say, this is an insane line for them to be giving as many points as they're giving to Pitt. Pitt plays them tough every year. One thing you look at with the defenses, both teams have good defenses. Notre Dame, obviously, a stellar defense. They hold all of their opponents to under 100 yards rushing. There's one team that did run against them, and that was Stanford. They ran for 147 yards against Notre Dame. What type of team is Stanford? A pro-style attack. What does the Pitt Panther offense run? A pro-style attack with a strong running game with Graham. I look for Pitt to try to shorten the game. That'll favor the under, like Brian said, but they will stay in this game. And since Siri's played in Notre Dame before, it's not going to be a lot of players go in there and they're, in awe of the stadium there. Yeah. He's not going to be there. We're going to take Pitt. This is their season for Pitt. They could pull an upset here. We'll take Pitt plus the points as my free pick.
Marco's free pick is the Pitt Panthers, and we go from the Golden Horseshoe to the Pac-12. No pun intended there, horseshoe out of his rare pack. Anyway, it's Oregon, USC coming up next. Wow, if we really hit an all-time low right here at pregame.tv.
And I can almost guarantee it's not a Pac-12.
Hey.